My name's John Smith. I'm here helping Amy and accommodating her. And this is what's the date today?
Today is November 3rd,
November 3rd. It's about a quarter after 2 almost. And you are Mr. Rich
Vandenbroek.
Okay, and we're here to ask for a reconsideration for a determination that's been made by the Department of Social Security with respect to Amy's benefits for her 2 daughters.
Okay.
Do you happen to know the case number offhand? We want to read that.
I don't want to read the case number, Social Security numbers. I don't want to put out there, but other than that, I don't care about the recording.
Okay. Well, it's Amy's confidential. Yeah.
What's that?
I admire the protection of Social Security numbers.
Thank you.
You guys ought to do a better job when they ask for our driver's license. Okay, can I have my paperwork?
Before we get started, as you had stated, I just want to lay down a few groundworks. There's been allegations that there's been intimidation, yelling, name calling, that sort of thing. I'm just going to from the get-go, it's not going to be tolerated. If we get frustrated and raise our voice, it's my understanding that you called my employee out front incompetent for speaking with her. If you say anything like that, I will terminate this interview. Just to let you know, we can all be professional and deal with the situation and be good to go. Okay.
When I ask for a document that's online and they won't give it to me because she's directed by Ms. Mansky not to, I do think this is not up to snuff, you bet.
Okay, but I'm just laying the groundwork.
Well, as long as we're talking about that, we asked for a document that we're not prepared to file, refused us.
No, I came out and explained that, actually. You were asking for the reconsideration and the hearing at the same time.
No, I just wanted the paperwork.
Okay.
That's all the form. That was explained in triplicate, and nobody was listening.
Okay.
Okay?
Okay. So we are testing what exactly?
Well, let me explain that. And you'll have to correct me if I'm wrong, because I don't have all of the paperwork that preceded August. But it's my understanding that at some point alleged that Amy wasn't being responsible about the money that was being received and spending that on the child. It's my understanding that Amy didn't even find out that these allegations were being made until after Social Security had made a determination and had never contacted Amy and consulted with her or given her an opportunity to contest or contravene this allegation. Now, if you notified Amy ahead of time and told her what was going on and gave her an opportunity to respond and have input before this determination was made, I'd like to hear it on the record. I'm not aware of it.
The application for payee was August 9th, and on August 9th, my employee that took the interview did call Amy and spoke to her on August 9th. All I have is her notes when she was talking to her.
I had already received notice that the benefits were going to go directly to Christina before I got the phone call.
What date was that you got the notice?
August 9th sounds right about right.
Okay, but you before you spoke to anybody on the phone, you had already received notice that had been made.
I received notice a couple days prior to that, and then I got
the date of the application was August 9th, so there couldn't have been a decision before then.
Then why did they know there had been?
I would have to see it. There's no way that would have happened. It wouldn't have, because an appointment was scheduled for August 9th and was taken, and part of our due diligence is to contact the old payee, and in your case the mother, to see what it is, and I'll admit there was discrepancies, and I preach to my employees all the time, don't get too involved with whatever so-and-so's or the other one. Sometimes it lies in the middle, what the truth is. She's saying she's kicked out of the household, you're saying she's a runaway, so we have to figure out what's
I have had, I know this girl personally, and I've known Amy most, and this is a good mother. And the daughter This is a picture of the one that everybody think is very adult-like and capable of managing her own affairs.
Right.
This is the same daughter who surrendered her license to the Department of Motor Vehicles because Amy no longer wanted to be liable for her driving habits. And she got a ticket while she was driving with no license. And then when she was a runaway, she signed this, being with the Dosses, after a police report had been turned in. And this is a notice of the surrender of the license.
And those being a runaway, or I mean, there's all kinds of things that are being said that, in lack of better terms, is hearsay. I mean, she's saying a runaway.
This is not hearsay.
Right.
Okay.
But what happened at
and the police report's been put. Do you have a copy of the police?
What happened?
I can get that to you.
What happened at the hearing?
Which hearing?
The emancipation hearing held on September 27th.
It was continued, and then the child who claims that she's independent and able to take care of herself also filed a petition, a CHINS petition, a child in need for services petition, which by definition means you're a dependent child. I don't know how you can be pregnant and I'm not pregnant at the same time. Oxymoron. Okay.
Independent and dependent at the same time.
But the main thing is, these are decisions that proper state, not Social Security. Social Security has got no business deciding that a child is old enough to take care of themselves. That's a state's right.
If we get application and we do our due diligence, we contact with Amy. There was no indication that the child was a runaway. That there was indication that she had moved out either June and that it really didn't.
That is true. She was not living at home.
Right.
But did you inquire into this? Like, are you aware that the child, when she grabbed her stuff and went out the door, right, and Amy, tried to stop her, child said, "There's nothing you can do about it."
Like you said, I mean, there's state issues and there's our issues. Our issues are, where's the child? Where's the benefits going? Is the child capable enough to handle her own funds?
How did you make a determination that the child was capable of handling her own funds?
I'm not going to go into all the details, but we do get records to indicate we have a questionnaire, bank statements, that sort of thing, to make sure that funds and show the ability to do it.
I think we have her August funds,
I have a bank
August statement
to show how she
and then
manages.
John,
I have a bank statement to show how she manages her own money.
Mm-hmm.
I think we're getting off track here.
You've got documents you've brought together to show how you were spending the money. Now, did you make a determination that this mother was not meeting her fiduciary responsibilities?
I haven't got into that yet. I know we recently got the payee accounting that I believe you faxed in for her with the accounting.
Just as a
and I do have it here, but I haven't gone through it in detail.
A spreadsheet that was included.
There was a spreadsheet included.
Did you include my spreadsheet?
Included the spreadsheet.
So I mean, I haven't, in all fairness or honesty, gone through that part of it.
Well, it's kind of a little late now, isn't it? The allegation was an allegation made that she wasn't meeting her responsibilities.
There's not an allegation by us that she's not meeting it.
Did anybody allegation?
There may be an allegation out there, yes.
And did you act on that?
I have not acted on it yet. I wanted to see what this interview was going to be.
You have acted on it, and that you guys changed who representative payee is.
Separate matters that came in after the fact.
Okay, you said the application till the 9th, so that's the first time you heard any allegations about Amy's performance as a representative payee?
That's just saying that I'm not house. She's my payee. She's not paying for rent or anything where I am staying. Then we look at it. We took an application, made her own. We contacted Amy same day. She said yes. She hasn't been in the household. I have been paying, if I can decipher the notes, her medical bill, her medical premium.
Continue to make the house payments.
Auto insurance, mortgage payments. Mm-hmm. But as a payee, you're responsible to that person. So no matter if the payee's in your house or if that person moves, you're the payee, you have to make sure that money's used for that child. And
we don't disagree on that. And in fact, it was.
So you sent money to where Amy was staying?
I'm Amy. No, she was supposed to come home. She did not have no permission to be out of the house.
Did you indicate that to my employee? She contacted you?
That was in August, I don't recall.
Because, I mean, to me, and speaking with the employee, she had said wasn't the indication.
And I ordered her home September 3rd. Because
Right.
I'd had enough. It was time to come home.
Right.
And school was starting. And
I know.
I attempted to contact Social Security about that change. And I was told that they wouldn't take my word for it. They had to hear it from her.
Yes. Amy told me that early on, and also that that a decision had been made that Amy wasn't interested in taking care of her child.
Because I've been told that, even offering to you, that you can file another application to become the payee again, determination.
They told me that they wouldn't take my word for it.
No, it was up to the child.
Well, once the determination was made, I mean, if you say, no, that's not true and I want to be the payee still, then we would have set up an application for you to become the payee. Not saying that we would have made you the payee, we would have done the investigation again, but...
You say you would have, but I did and you didn't.
And she tried to make, and she was told, we're not going to take any input from you unless the child confirms it.
Okay. So what are we looking for now?
Well, what I'm looking for, and I'm in Amy's behalf, is that it's difficult, even under the best of circumstances, to raise a teenager in a positive and constructive way. If, to use a metaphor, it was Daddy Warbucks with deep pockets, and money was no object. And I offered any teenager that wanted to take up my offer almost $1,300 a month if they'd run away from home every month, and I'd pay for it. You think I'd have any takers?
Absolutely, but I'm not.
The Social Security.
What Social Security did. They offered her money to be a runaway.
Yes, and this is a child that steals, that has people impersonate her mother, okay, and yet. Amy's trying to parent this child, and Social Security, by its and behavior, directly interfered with the child-parent relationship without very little to go on, and by their own lights and just giving her a full hearing or due process. You say you gave her a call on the phone, and that's it?
And then a letter is sent, termination's made. Yeah,
I had already received the letter before I got the phone call.
I'm just going off the notes and the appointment date that it was done on the same day.
This is where the buck stops. Amy is saying she didn't get a phone call until the determination was made. It sounds like
you've already told me
had its mind made up before it ever talked.
That's
to Amy.
not true. We never have our mind made up before.
You didn't know that.
But when you even opened up the thing, you said that you want to start by recording based on a disability because sometimes she doesn't remember 5 minutes. No disrespect.
Her long-term memory is good, though.
So I have notes. I have notes in the documents that show that a phone call was made. I have to go by that.
Well, for the record, when was the phone call placed to Amy?
On August 9th.
Okay, when did they make the determination going to make Christina the payee?
I believe on August 12th.
Is 3 days notice is enough time for her to organize her case and present it on something that's so?
Like I said, she agreed that the child wasn't in her care.
The child had a summer job, but Amy was going to pay for her health care and make a number of other payments.
And I did point that out.
And Amy says
no, it does. And we're paying the medical insurance and I think the auto insurance.
I was continuing to pay for her to have a home to come home to.
She wasn't on pay rent where she was, or If she's not living in the household, then the money would have gone towards her share, and quite honestly, should have been held somewhere else. She wasn't there, so how are you going to charge her or pay for something for her room? And even a statement of maybe, well, I can't rent out her room, or the notes are kind of funny, but.
Well, I couldn't rent out her room. She had to have a room to come home to.
Well, let me respond for that. This remained the child's domicile, in fact and legally. The child's domicile is with who has custody of her, the mother. And because the child was gone without the mother's permission, it created problems for the mother in how to handle this. She doesn't know what all of her rights are as a parent. Okay, but just because my child goes off to summer camp for summer or takes a summer job doesn't mean their domicile's changed.
Right.
Their domicile, and there's only one domicile. They can have multiple residences. One domicile, that's their home, that remained with Amy. Amy never intended to abandon or give this child up. Now, the child's difficult, but Amy made every effort to parent the child and was interfered with by the Department of Social Security's meddling in her relationship with her family.
I disagree with this.
Well, you could disagree, but that's
Supposing I
the
did
case we're
send my
making.
child off to summer camp, do I no longer get to count? Do I no longer get dispense of
That's a absence from the
Well,
house.
so was
So
this.
It wasn't indicated. You agreed that Christina, was not in the household, and that yes, it should have been approached to you. And I wasn't on the
It was
phone,
prompt.
but it was indicated that she had said that she was kicked out and no longer living at your household.
She was kicked out.
Who told you that she was kicked out of the
Christina
house?
told her that she was kicked out. Christina lies, you know that.
Mhm. So you just took the child's word that she was kicked out of the house?
And disputed when the phone calls made when we called to
No
investigate.
one asked me if she'd been kicked out.
Well,
If they had, I would have told them no.
So
She
we
wasn't kicked out.
case Jen, we did our interview, we made the decision to make her our own payee, and then as time went on, you had your emancipation hearing the 27th,
That's
and then
that's
it went,
water, that's
and
way
then
on
it
the other
went.
side of
It
this.
is on the other side,
Yeah.
but the courts did find that she can be emancipated.
We're not just whether she's emancipated now. We're disputing whether she was emancipated when you made the decision and whether it factored into it that you was kicked out of Amy's house.
And we did our investigation to see if she was in the household, and she was
How
not in the
did you
household.
That doesn't mean she was kicked out of the
How
house.
did you determine that she'd been?
Yeah, how'd you make up your mind on that one?
By doing the interviews to see, calling Amy, and
So
then,
when I said that she wasn't kicked out but had left without my consent,
that's what you're saying now, yes.
that's what I
Did
said
Amy
then,
ever tell you
too.
she'd been kicked out of the house?
She didn't dispute the fact that she wasn't,
If any, I would have said no because she wasn't.
right?
So
So-
What evidence do you have besides Christina say so kicked out of this house, this woman's house?
I don't have any evidence.
So just a difficult child's word, that's enough for you guys.
No, like I said, we did our interviews and then we made our determination. I'm
Now, who
not
else did
going
you
to
talk
go
to?
into who we talked to.
Oh,
did someone ask me if she'd been kicked out?
They called and said that she's no longer in your household,
No
and
one
you said,
asked me if she'd
did
been
you
kicked
talk to
out.
April and Oliver Doss about this?
I have no clue who April Doss is.
Who she was temporarily residing with?
I have no idea who she is. I don't.
Okay, well, you say you talked to other people. How are
I
we
said
supposed
we
to
did.
respond? Yeah, the department. I don't
Right.
mean you personally.
Right.
I mean Social Security. Did Social Security talk to April Doss?
I'm not sure.
And why won't you reveal who you got the information from so that we on to the validity?
Because,
of it?
there's not much to respond to. We made our choice. We can make the choice that she is capable of handling her own funds, so when she was not in the care of Amy.
I challenge and object to that assertion. I don't believe
It's
that
not a court. You don't have to challenge and object.
It's going to court,
Okay?
and this is part of the record.
Okay?
You don't have the authority to determine that this child is an adult or capable of handling her own affairs without giving the mother much more due process than you did.
Now, we made our determination based on the facts that we'd had at the time, and Apparently it stood up. I mean, she was emancipated, so obviously there is some truth to it.
I believe that judge emancipated her. A minor child.
But
No job,
the judge
and
didn't
exercise.
emancipate her when the department decision. So is it the department's position now that she's no longer in need of any supervision or care? Is it
She was, 17 and a half when we took it. At 3 months before 18, it ought to pay anyway. She was
3 months prior?
Yeah, so she wasn't in the household at the time. We did our investigation. We made the determination to make her. That's the bottom line.
Well,
And if you disputed it when you came in and asked for up an appointment for you to apply to be the payee, I'm not saying we would have selected you again. We would have had to do our due diligence and find out what the
I
story was.
disagreed.
And
I called. I was told that they wouldn't take my word for it. They had to hear it from Christina.
what you're telling us
Christina
now,
refused
I
to
don't-
make that call.
did you give that to Amy in writing?
she got a notice saying that there was a change. And I
Oh,
think
that isn't what I asked. I'd like you to respond directly. Did you, what you're telling us now, inform Amy of this in writing so that she could look at it or consult or confer with somebody else not familiar with this process?
the notice would say that we're selecting somebody else. If you call and dispute the fact that you don't want that change,
Was that
and then
in
you
the
say,
right document?
I don't have the document in front of me.
So you can't say yes, you don't know.
If she would have called to say, I don't agree with my daughter being her own pay, I want to apply to be the payee, we would have set up an
That's a
appointment.
wonderful assertion now. Did you make that clear to her in writing at the time? Just a second, let me
I
turn this
did
on.
call to know that she was home
Right.
and that she should no longer be her own payee and that I wanted to be the payee again. And I was told that they would not take my word for it. They had to hear it from her.
Right.
But more importantly, the
refused.
details of what you're telling us now, we're not...
Well, the bottom line is
they're
her
in
own
writing.
payee now, so I mean, doing this, I don't know what you guys are looking for.
I'll look back. I think you owe her some money. That's what I think.
Child in your household the whole time?
She was returned to the household, and you guys wouldn't even let Amy make that claim. The child had, was returned on the very evening, or the very day, the evening of the day that I called the Dosses and said, if you continue to harbor that child who's a runaway, there's going to be a complaint filed for legal interference. You, the department, aided and abetted that situation.
We didn't aid and abet anything.
Well, yeah, you did.
Yeah, you
They
did.
didn't
Well-
take her money to be a runaway.
We are doing a look back based on the accounting. We'll look at what's going on and we'll determine what was done with the money.
Well, the records that we have of the child's spending in August don't appear to be the child's basic needs at all, or health care.
She went
She
on the
continued to,
shopping spree.
to rely on her mother's health care.
She continued on my health care, and I have evidence too that she
Right.
did continue to see the doctor on my health care. I
Um,
have
we-
her
we-
bank statement
we-
to show how responsive the money.
there is another shoe here to drop. We haven't broached it yet, but I'll take the opportunity to broach it now. Dr. Ms. Mansky, she feels like the child is going to remain eligible for survivor benefits until she turns 19 and graduates, whichever comes first. But I think that that's ignoring the fact that the documents that we have in researching this indicate.
You're getting into the emancipation part of it.
Yeah, and this Amy and her youngest child have standing on this profound effect on how that fixed amount is distributed, whether it's distributed between 3 people or 2.
So it's about how much money is coming into Amy's household.
I don't know what you mean by that. What are you saying?
Well, now that the payee want to make an argument that because somebody's emancipated, they're no longer eligible for benefits, so that other people's
just like
benefits
if they
can
got
continue.
married or had joined the military.
That would.
Yeah, that's the argument.
And I told you on the phone about that. That's above our level. If you want to change the Social Security Act, you'd have to go to the congressman, federal court, or something. That's it's not stated in the Social Security Act that just because somebody becomes emancipated,
if it's not stated, then
he was dependent on the number holder when he passed away. That entitled her to
yeah.
benefits.
But once she's emancipated, she's no longer dependent on that person.
She was dependent on my husband, who were collecting benefits based on his work record. She was dependent on him as a child. Her statement and the basis for her emancipation is that she is no longer a dependent child. That's the definition of emancipated.
I agree. But it's not a termination event for survivors.
We don't agree.
She would not be paying child support if she were emancipated. If he were alive,
wouldn't be required to.
I'm just saying,
And
with our regulations, there's no.
Funded a report. Do we have the report, page 7 on that?
John, if I could speak. The Social Security is intended to provide a substitute for the support that a parent would have provided.
Correct.
He would have provided to her. In being emancipated, she has made the claim that she is not dependent on parental support.
Yeah, that's different than.
And that's what I said, and that's when we were talking on the phone. I said I can't argue the fact of the definition of emancipation, but it's not a termination event for Social Security.
You don't have, though, a clear
She's not supposed to
guideline
be a
on that.
dependent child anymore. She has made it clear that she is not a dependent child. But you are paying her as a dependent child.
I mean, for lack of, you could argue about the emancipation until you're blue in the face. I cannot make a decision on the emancipation part of it. It's not a termination event for Social Security.
Where does it be emancipated?
We've sent the regulations.
Nowhere does it say that they're to pay an emancipated child.
To terminate an emancipated child.
No.
It doesn't say.
So who does the ambiguity go to? You or Amy?
I'm not going to make that determination. It's not a termination event. That's all I'm going to say. It's not.
Well,
and I'm not going there.
I understand your position. Before the record, I'm just making our position clear that there's a difference between the way Social Security treats, and the state for that matter, a child that turns 18 but has not been emancipated and not graduated from high school. So they're still treated as dependent up to a point.
Mm-hmm.
But
For child support purposes,
it's profoundly different. They get married when they join the military, when they're emancipated. Those are seminal events that change the status of the child. Even if just turning 18 doesn't change the status of the child for certain to be questions such as child support. Congress has said, and the research that they funded say, that this program, benefits under Title II, is intended for dependent children. This child, by definition, now is no longer dependent.
Argument, but it's not a decision that we could make. You're wanting to change Social Security law, that Social Security Act, and that's something that you would have.
I'm not asking for that. I'm saying that it needs to be interpreted the way it's written. I don't have time to change it, but there's nothing in there authorizing you to pay an emancipated child.
That subject's been explained as far as I'm explaining it.
It's silent on that.
Okay. Do you have any other issues?
Other than that, we want Amy to be compensated for the time when she continued to bear the expenses for this child, whether she happened to be there at the moment or not. And also, I think that the department owes her an apology for refusing to allow her to present that the child was once again living in her home.
We did contact, that's all I'll say. So.
You contacted who?
We contacted Amy.
Amy contacted you and told you the child was living with her. But they wouldn't accept that as a...
No, I mean, we could sit here and disagree. I know that we have offered to set up an appointment, even when you were calling as a representative, saying that we can submit to apply to be represented again, and it was said, no, I don't want that. I want an appeal. Where if we would have done the application, investigation as far as that, a true representative payee is really, there's no set appeals for. You come in, you disagree that a payee change, and then we would set up another appointment, take your statements, investigate that further, and go from there.
I think in the others I've talked to, now this is anecdotal, but I made a lot of phone calls. This office is the only one that said that they would a child under 18 as the payee instead of the parents. They said they didn't do that.
I can call a whole bunch of offices my question to get the answer that I want.
I just asked the question. It wasn't like anybody I was leading to finish my statement. And if we were talking about adults here, I think your argument would be valid. Talking about a child, and you're treating that child de facto like an adult when creating tensions and damage in the family structure. And all I'm hearing from this department is, well, we did it because we can.
We did it because she said she's not in the household. Mother said she's not in the household. We made our determination as capable. We made the determination.
The mother did not tell you she'd been kicked out of the house. I'm not at my house sometimes either. That doesn't mean that that's not my home.
Okay.
That's still that was the child's domicile until she was emancipated. And I don't really think you can get around that. Just a child that's having a conflict with the mother is going to tell you what she wants you to hear. But you had a fiduciary duty to go beyond that, and you didn't.
Do you have any other issues or statements?
No, those are the two main ones. She, in effect now, is paying child support for this emancipated minor. And she, daughter, should not have to be in that position to be paying child support for a daughter who refused to be parented and said that she was independent, and in effect, de facto, when you look at the way the distribution is working, Amy and her youngest daughter are paying, in effect, child support to this emancipated 17-year-old that when she turns 3 months from 18, we would have done this anyway. Well and good, but she's emancipated now. That really changes the nature of this question.
Right, and I've already answered those questions.
Well, you've answered them to your satisfaction, not to ours.
Okay.
And so we will be appealing this if we don't get a correct determination, and we'll take it as it's to go.
Okay.
My main issue that I would like to get back to is that you are hating someone who has declared herself independent. You can't be dependent and independent at the same time, and she is collecting on her dead father's record as though it were child support.
Yeah.
At Amy's expense and her youngest daughter's.
I'm not here to determine what the class and how far that goes.
Who is?
I'm here to say that because you go and get an emancipation is not a terminating event, leave survivors benefits.
It should be, and I think it is if it was properly interpreted. The way the law is written now.
I think that the way the law is written, that would that's what it looks like to me. But I want to know where that's written. Can you give me a code?
We've given you, I believe we supplied you with the policy that terminating event for a surviving child.
Right, but it's silent on the emancipation. It said
It
nothing. It didn't breathe the word emancipation, but it did children that got married, which is sort of the equivalent.
Well, it's not a terminating event.
Where is that written?
It's what is a termination event. We've gone to ask our regional office if there's anything else that says anything about emancipation, and there's not.
If you're silent on it, doesn't mean that it shouldn't
Okay.
Well, let me make an analogy just for the record.
So,
the U.S. Constitution doesn't explicitly speak of the right to privacy, but the Supreme Court said that it's inferred, that it's within the penumbra of the document. It's implied the purpose and congressional intent of Title II that children that are emancipated are to stop receiving benefits by definition, by law.
That's
Just like if they got
by
married.
definition, by law, they are no longer dependent.
Right. And already, it's the emancipation. You said you're going to fight it to wherever you have to fight it. It's above my level. There's nothing I can do that's going to change the policy. Our regulations does not state that emancipation is a terminating event.
Doesn't
That's
say
the bottom line.
It doesn't say it's not either.
Okay.
It's silent
say
issue.
that
Would you
it's not
agree
a
that it's
terminating
silent
event.
on the point?
No, I won't. It's not a termination event.
Where's the word emancipation in these regulations? I haven't seen it.
It's a dead issue. I'm not talking about it anymore. Do you have something
No,
else?
this is a pertinent question. It doesn't that you should pay an emancipated minor, right? Is that correct? It doesn't. Say
We
that.
would, even if it was an emancipated minor, and to file for benefits that were, it's going to be a bad analogy, saying that, say the person had passed away 6 months before and their emancipation 3 months after. If we prove that the child was dependent upon the number holder when he passed away, they would be entitled to benefits.
Even though she's no longer dependent.
Correct.
How would you
legally
handle a
and
child that was already emancipated and applied for the benefits if they were underage?
We would have to determine dependency at the time that the eligibility happened.
I see. So if they were already emancipated, you say you'd have to determine their ability. But if they weren't emancipated and became emancipated later, you don't look at that issue.
I think
Is that correct?
a good analogy would be suppose Christina's father died when she was 17 and a half. And then she turned 18 and applied for benefits retroactively.
Ability to get the benefits, yes.
I'm not sure I understood. What was the question and what did he answer?
Dicka died when she was 17 and a half. She was 18 and decided to apply for the benefits that she should have gotten from 17 and a half to 18.
I think that's a valid interpretation. But what he's doing is he's Rich. Is it all Rich?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Rich is saying they'd have to really study the issue if the child is already emancipated when they applied for the benefit. But if they became emancipated later, that he's saying, well, that's not a terminating event. But yet,
I've never had the situation come up, so I mean.
I've done a lot of research on this. I can't find any case law on it, so it may be a case of first impression. Emancipations in this state are fairly rare. There's only been 669 of them adjudicated since it became law in 1998 in the state of Washington. Okay, but the arguments that we're making should be dismissed lightly.
Just because there's no case law on it so far doesn't mean it should be
And
dismissed.
There's nothing I can do about the emancipation part of it.
I know there's nothing you can do about the fact that she's emancipated.
But you have everything's distributed.
Yes.
It's not a termination event, so she's going to get benefits until she's graduates high school or turns 19.
Mm-hmm. What if she gets married?
Then we have to look at who she gets married to. There's all kinds of laws.
Oh, you mean if she got married, that wouldn't be an automatic terminating event?
It's criteria that no, it's not always a termination event.
Really?
Mm-hmm.
Well, I haven't read that out. What I read said if the child was married, it was...
Generally speaking, there is criteria to where they continue to get benefits.
I'm just curious, what would those criteria be?
Marry another beneficiary, receiving benefit.
Okay, in other words, the person was dependent and couldn't support them.
I'm not an expert in the title situations where even if they get married, they can get benefits.
Or if maybe the person was disabled.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
I want to on something here. You say that nowhere is it written that emancipation is a terminating event. But you also agree that nowhere that emancipation is not a terminating event. Or, it's
Vice versa.
It's not written either way. So you choose it as meaning that she continues to get benefits.
We just determine dependency of the child when in this case,
I learned that she's not dependent now.
Yeah,
It's not
Rich,
we keep going in the same
If
circle.
we were asking for a change because she dyed her hair green and the code was silent on that, we'd agree that that's like neither here nor there. But emancipated goes to the very core and heart of the intent of Title II.
I'm not. I mean, like I said, we're going in circles, so I'm not going to continue with the
Well, we're going
emancipation.
to don't agree with this, but
Right,
there's
I don't.
clearly a difference on the code being silent about something that's irrelevant, like what color do you dye your hair?
Unless
and
we have
whether you're-
another topic, I'm going to say the interview's done.
Okay. Are you ready, Amy? I think we have what we need.
I am not particularly satisfied with the answers.
Well, that was kind of a given going in.
Well, no, I'd really hoped that they would understand that she's not a dependent child, and that is law, that she's not a dependent child. That's been clearly stated in that she's emancipated, she's declared herself not dependent on any parental support. Social Security is supposed to provide what a parent would have provided.
Okay.
It's supposed to be essentially the equivalent of child support, and she is declared that.
By the way, before we go, would you like to give us a form now for appealing this decision?
A decision hasn't been made yet.
Well, it's pretty much in order, but can we have the form before
Can
we
I
leave?
ask you how
Yes.
this decision is made?
How this decision is made? Well, first we're determining, try to find out what you're actually appealing, and you said you want compensation.
I am appealing that you gave her the benefits as a runaway. I'm also appealing whether you will continue to give her benefits as an emancipated minor.
I'll get you the here.
A little of both.
It's hard to get very far talking about brick wall.
He is less brick wallish than most of the people in the country.
Yeah, well, Miss Mansky is a separate case. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Okay, we're going to start recording unless there's something you want to add here.
I'm still curious. You say that a decision has not been made.
No, we were having a conversation. I mean,
Okay.
you guys interpreted this as being a hearing when it's just a reconsideration. We look at the facts of I guess you're appealing that she was made her own payee. So then,
Oh, we'd like you to have this. Just take that file. And this. I brought these for you.
okay.
And this. And I think the other thing matters the record that Social Security has access to, but you didn't have these.
Okay.
Should I also give you her bank statement? Should I have just got money?
Yeah, you got a copy of it, right? Yeah, go ahead. Give her the bank statement.
So can you reconsider?
Ask yourself if that was your kid, whether you'd be happy if that's how they
I will
spend it.
really look at it.
Yeah.
Now, I am curious, again, to get back to, you say you haven't made a determination, we were having a conversation. When will the determination, and how will that?
When I go back to my desk, I'm going to look over everything and then formulate a decision based on what we're talked about and the paperwork you.
By the way, just opinion, but I think every parent, age child, if they were aware of how this has worked out in Amy's case, they'd be outraged. You'd have pickets outside your office, and you may say that, well, you can call around and get any answer you want from these other offices, but I called a number of them. This office is does give me an opinion about the office's competence when I contrast it with what I'm told by the other offices.
I think, too, that I can call in the office and eventually get the answer I want. That kind of implies there's no consistency.
Yeah.
No, I'm saying when you said that is you can phrase a question, and you're a master at phrasing and spinning stuff. You can phrase anything you want to answer you're looking for.
Well,
If you call and say, my child's a runaway, would you make them their own payee? Without giving...
That's
what
pretty
it
much
was,
it, yeah.
Right, so,
Yeah, that's pretty much it.
so you didn't say,
I'm
okay,
assuming.
that there's a case to where maybe they were actually kicked out or allowed to move out. But
I
now,
object to that. You have no basis
you
for
can
that.
shut it off. I'm not saying this for any. I don't care about your recording because you said it was for her, so she doesn't forget. If you, I lost my train of thought.
Go ahead.
You have to take into account, there's an allegation of a runaway versus being kicked out, and brought to light that there was even an issue, even though we called on August 9th to say that, she's applied to be her payee. She's saying she's not living there. Yeah, she's not living this. But then once the check doesn't come, then it's a bigger issue.
It was a big issue from the get-go, but
It's
a
an
young
issue.
typically
I
doesn't
objected to
know
her
what
leaving
what
in
her
the
rights
first
are.
place.
Well, I'll take all the information and the documents provided, and we'll go
On
from
a
there.
personal note, little miss, I was kicked out of my home, stood in the driveway while I was crying and begging her not to go, and told me to fuck off, and
Oh,
she was taken off.
I want to
What
add
I
one
said.
thing. I forgot. Amy hired and paid a family counselor to try to the conflicts and tensions. And after a number of sessions, and this girl that you just take it at her word, the counselor asked the child in Amy's presence, "You're just doing this to hurt your mother, aren't you?" And she admitted to this. And you've been assisting her. Thanks for